Have you ever found yourself in a situation where you feel like the weight of the world is on your shoulders and no one seems to care? Maybe it's the stress of work, the constant demands of family, or even the nagging feeling of not being good enough. It's a struggle many of us face, and if we're honest, it can feel overwhelming at times. We live in a world where it seems like everyone is too busy to lend a hand, and it's easy to feel isolated and alone. But what if I told you that this very feeling of being overwhelmed, of feeling unheard, could be a powerful tool for your personal growth? This isn't about ignoring your struggles or pretending that life is easy. Instead, it's about shifting your perspective, seeing that these challenges are actually opportunities for self-discovery, inner strength, and peace. In Buddhism, there is a profound teaching about suffering and the nature of human existence. One of the core concepts is that suffering is an intrinsic part of life, but it doesn't need to define us. The Buddha taught that all suffering arises from attachment, whether it's attachment to our desires, our expectations, or even our sense of self. When we are attached to these things, we experience suffering because everything is impermanent. The key to overcoming this suffering is not to wait for someone else to fix it, but to take responsibility for our own peace of mind. So why do we often feel as though no one cares or that the world is against us? It's because we are searching for external validation and support, rather than looking within ourselves for strength. The Buddha teaches us that true peace comes from within, from cultivating a mind that is not dependent on the opinions or actions of others. One of the first steps in this process is acknowledging that no one can do it for you. It's easy to place the responsibility of our happiness and well-being on others, whether it's family, friends, or even society at large. But the truth is, the power to change our mindset and our life lies within us. This realization can be both liberating and daunting, but it is the first step toward real, lasting change. So how do we begin this process of self-reliance? The answer lies in mindfulness, a practice that is central to Buddhist teachings. Mindfulness is the art of being present, fully engaged in the moment, without judgment or distraction. It's about bringing our awareness back to the here and now rather than getting lost in worries about the past or future. By practicing mindfulness, we learn to detach from the emotional storms that often cloud our judgment and sense of self-worth. To start, try this simple exercise. Close your eyes and take a deep breath. Focus on the sensation of the air entering and leaving your body. Let go of any thoughts about the past or future. Just be present. As you do this, you may notice that the mind starts to calm down and the feelings of overwhelm begin to dissipate. This is the power of mindfulness. It allows us to regain control over our mental state and find peace within ourselves, regardless of the external circumstances. Let me share a story that illustrates this. A woman, let's call her Sarah, had been feeling overwhelmed by life. She was constantly worried about her job, her family, and the future. One day, after attending a Buddhist meditation retreat, she decided to try the practice of mindfulness. Every morning, she would sit for 5 minutes focusing on her breath. At first, it felt challenging, but over time, she noticed a shift. She became more present in her interactions with others, less reactive to stress and more in tune with her emotions. As a result, her relationships improved, and she began to feel more at peace. What made Sarah's journey successful? It wasn't that her life suddenly became easier, or that others started caring more. It was her willingness to take responsibility for her own mental well-being. Through mindfulness, she learned to detach from the need for external validation and instead found strength within herself. As we wrap up part 1, remember that you are the key to your own happiness. The world may not always give you what you want, but by cultivating mindfulness and self-reliance, you can find peace no matter the circumstances. This doesn't mean you have to do it alone, but it does mean that you have the power to change your perspective and take charge of your own emotional state. And as we continue, I encourage you to keep an open heart and mind and to be patient with yourself as you explore these teachings. In the previous section, we discussed the importance of taking responsibility for your own well-being and using mindfulness to find peace within. But let's take this a step further and explore some deeper Buddhist practices that can help you navigate the challenges of life with more ease and grace. One of the most powerful tools in Buddhism is the practice of loving kindness, or metta. This practice is about cultivating compassion, not just for others, but also for ourselves. Often, we are our own harshest critics, constantly judging ourselves for our perceived shortcomings or mistakes. But Buddhism teaches that we can transform this inner dialogue by replacing judgment with love and kindness. Start by sitting quietly and repeating the following phrases to yourself. May I be happy. May I be healthy. May I be at peace. May I live with ease. These simple phrases may feel strange at first, but with practice, they can begin to shift the way you view yourself. Instead of focusing on your flaws, you begin to embrace yourself with compassion and love. This, in turn, allows you to offer the same kindness to others. Another essential Buddhist practice is meditation. In Part 1, we touched on mindfulness, meditation. But there are other types of meditation that can be equally powerful in cultivating inner peace. One such practice is vipassana meditation, or insight meditation. This practice focuses on gaining insight into the nature of reality by observing the impermanent nature of all things. By recognizing that everything is temporary, our thoughts, our emotions, even our bodies, we can begin to detach from the idea of a permanent self and experience greater freedom. To practice vipassana, simply sit quietly and observe your thoughts and sensations without judgment. When a thought arises, notice it without getting caught up in it. When a feeling comes, simply acknowledge it and let it go. Over time, this practice can help you detach from the constant stream of thoughts that often lead to stress and anxiety. Let me share another story. Tom, a man in his early 60s, had struggled with anxiety for years. He found it difficult to stay calm, especially during moments of stress. After practicing mindfulness and loving kindness, he decided to try vipassana meditation. At first, he found it challenging to sit still and let go of his thoughts. But over time, he began to experience moments of clarity and peace. He realized that his anxiety was rooted in his attachment to outcomes. He was always worried about what might happen. But through meditation, he learned to accept uncertainty and let go of the need for control. As a result, his anxiety began to lessen, and he felt more at peace with himself. This story demonstrates the transformative power of Buddhist practices. Tom didn't need to rely on others to fix his anxiety. Through self-practice, he was able to find the peace he had been searching for. Just like Sarah in Part 1, Tom took responsibility for his own well-being and found freedom through mindfulness and meditation. As you continue on your journey, remember that these practices require time and patience. They are not quick fixes, but rather tools for long-term transformation. I encourage you to experiment with these practices and see what resonates with you. And as always, be patient with yourself. Change takes time, but every step forward is a step toward greater peace. Applying Buddhist teachings to everyday life. As we come to the final part of our journey, let's talk about how to apply these teachings to everyday life. It's one thing to meditate and practice mindfulness in a quiet room, but how do we carry these practices into our daily interactions and challenges? One of the most profound teachings in Buddhism is the concept of anatta, the doctrine of non-self. This teaching reminds us that there is no permanent, unchanging self. Instead, we are constantly changing, and so are the people and situations around us. When we understand this, we begin to let go of the attachments that bind us, whether it's our attachment to our identity, our possessions, or even our relationships. Let's look at a common situation: conflict. Whether it's with family, friends, or colleagues, conflict is an inevitable part of life. But Buddhism teaches that when we approach conflict with a mindset of non-attachment, we can avoid getting swept up in negative emotions. Instead of reacting with anger or frustration, we can respond with understanding and compassion. Take a moment to think about a recent conflict you've had. How did you react? Did you become defensive or upset? Now imagine if you had approached the situation with a sense of detachment, not in the sense of not caring, but in the sense of not being overwhelmed by the emotions it triggered. By doing so, you would have been able to stay calm and present, instead of being swept away by the storm of your emotions. This approach also applies to our own personal struggles. When we face challenges, whether it's health issues, financial problems, or relationship difficulties, we can apply the same principles of mindfulness, loving kindness, and non-attachment. We don't have to let these challenges define us or determine our happiness. Instead, we can choose how we respond, knowing that everything is impermanent and that change is always possible. I want to leave you with one last story. A man named Peter had been struggling with a difficult family situation. He felt like he was always caught in the middle, trying to please everyone and keep the peace. But after learning about Buddhist teachings, he decided to approach the situation differently. Instead of reacting to every conflict, he took a step back and practiced mindfulness. He didn't try to change anyone else's behavior, but instead focused on his own reactions. Over time, his family dynamics improved, not because he forced change, but because he changed his own response. He was able to maintain peace within himself, regardless of the external circumstances. Peter's story is a beautiful example of how Buddhist teachings can be applied to everyday life. By practicing mindfulness, loving kindness, and non-attachment, we can navigate life's challenges with grace and calm. And just like Peter, we don't need anyone else to fix our problems. We have the power to transform our experience from within. As we conclude, I want to remind you that this journey is ongoing. The teachings of the Buddha offer a lifetime of wisdom, and each day is an opportunity to practice and grow. I encourage you to continue applying these teachings to your life, one step at a time. And remember, the most important thing is not to be perfect, but to be patient and compassionate with yourself. Keep walking the path and you'll find peace. In this video, we've explored how the Buddhist teachings on mindfulness, loving kindness, and non-attachment can help us overcome life's challenges and find peace within. These teachings are not quick fixes, but lifelong practices that require patience and dedication. They remind us that the power to change our lives lies within us, not in the actions or opinions of others. As you continue on your journey, remember that every small step counts. Every moment of mindfulness, every act of loving kindness, every time you let go of attachment, you are making progress. You may not see the results right away, but with time and practice, you will begin to experience more peace and clarity in your life. Thank you for joining me on this journey. I hope these teachings have brought you some insight and encouragement. Keep practicing, keep growing, and remember that you are never alone on this path. Peace is within you, always. I look forward to hearing about your experiences and insights. As you continue to apply these teachings, may you find peace and happiness in every step you take.